right, fantastic. And this is such a moment of pride and privilege for me to be sitting with two amazing leaders of education in our country, two people who are extremely well known, who have done so much in their vast careers for student community, for parent fraternity, and of course for teachers, and are helping us shape the future of education as we speak, given so many new things which are emerging right now. So it's fantastic. And I'll take a couple of minutes to introduce my two esteemed guests who have so graciously agreed to join us today. I have with us Punam Singhal ma'am. For those of us who have been in the education industry, know Punam ma'am very well, so she hardly needs that introduction, but it'll be my privilege to introduce you, ma'am. You've spent more than 40 years in the academic world. You've been a principal for a long, long time. Your last engagement was as a founder principal of GEMS International at Gurgaon. And as of now, Punam ma'am is running her own consulting and advisory work with schools, helping children and schools get better and bring in more cutting edge educational practices. So Punam ma'am, thank you so much for joining in. Your 40 years of experience is almost as much as my age.
Yeah, Abhinav, when I look back, my first batch of students who I taught today in their mid-50s. So it's been a long journey, yes.
I'm sure. And I hope some of them will look at this webinar and they'll realize
maybe it'll help their children.
No, I'm sure they'll realize how proud they are and how privileged they've been to be under your tutelage. So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. And I also have with me Shalu Babbar, ma'am. Shalu ma'am is once again a very senior academician, a very senior principal. Right now, she's a principal of GD Goenka High School at Gurgaon. She's been a principal at GD Goenka at Udaipur as well. Before that, Ashoka at Nasik. And once again, somebody who's worked extensively with not just the schools that she's led, but also, for example, I believe, ma'am, you've also trained principals on NEP. You've been a very passionate curriculum designer. And you've been helping schools once again become more self-sustainable and more successful. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's my absolute privilege to have you.
Thank you so much for such high words. Thank you.
Okay, so Punam ma'am and Shalu ma'am, what we wanted to talk about today was essentially innovation and entrepreneurship and the 21st century skills. There's been so much conversation which has been happening both within the schools and outside around what kind of skills do the children require or will they require as they step out into the real world. There's also been conversation around why a lot of our students today as they step out of universities are not really employable. And there's a lot of conversation around how eventually skills are becoming more and more important. And perhaps some people are saying that they will eventually, or they are actually more important even in comparison to degrees. So what we're talking about is these real world skills that children will need or absolutely need right now. The NEP, I also wanted to hear from you 3 years back, and there was a big thrust around this on including life skills curriculums in schools or 21st century skills curriculums in schools. Some schools have been very fast at adopting all of this, but some schools obviously are lagging a little bit behind. And now recently we've been hearing about NIEPP, which talks about actually the innovation, ideation, and entrepreneurship curriculums being brought into schools. Talking about things like actually building startups out of schools, or if you really read the draft of that policy, there's so much focus on actually helping teachers and students becoming more entrepreneurial, because the government right now feels that eventually the future belongs to people who will be starting out on their own or who will be building their own businesses. There's a lot of talk around gig economy and how everybody eventually will be on their own and not really working for anybody else. So that's what I wanted to talk about. But before we can get into a little bit more in depth into an IPP or what the NEP wants to do, I wanted to hear from you, Punam ma'am. What is your take on this whole buzz around 21st century skills, and what has been your experience so far?
I think the buzz is a bit out of proportion, I think. We keep talking about critical thinking and communication skills and creativity and all of that. But we are missing out on two very fundamental skills that our children need to acquire. And I think belonging to the age or the age that we went to school, I think that is something that helped us immensely. And the two skills that I talk about is resilience and patience. I think our children today have neither. What they look at is instant gratification. They want things to come like that. In the real world, it doesn't happen. When failure is a part of growth, you've got to learn that failure is a stepping stone to success. And for that, we need to build our children to be resilient as well as patient. And for that, I think parents need to be partners with the school to help us take that forward, because this constant pat on the back that the children are kind of asking for regularly. My child should have got this and should have got that, and these A grades and A plus and stars and stuff like that is something that the children are taking far too much for granted. They need to understand that they need to earn whatever they are, acquiring, or what they need to plan for. So that's my take. That's what I feel. And I think it's very, very important. It's very important that today's children understand that they need to be patient. Success will come, but they need to work hard, slowly and steadily towards it, and it will happen. So if you talk about the 21st century skills, for me, these are the top two priority.
Yeah, I'm so glad, ma'am, you brought this up. Resilience. Very few people speak about that. So I'm really glad you brought it up, because in my mind, I think there is nothing more important when it comes to entrepreneurship, for example. And, there's so much talk around entrepreneurship for youngsters. Nothing more important than resilience. Being a founder of a startup myself, the one skill that has really helped me keep going over the last 2 or 3 years as we've gone through COVID and economic shutdowns and slowdowns and all of that is resilience. You just cannot be without resilience. You may be hugely skilled, you may go to the best universities and schools and all of that, but absolutely right. If you don't have the patience, if you don't have the resilience, if you don't have the ability to fail fast, get up again, and course correct, it's just not going to happen. So thank you for bringing that point out. Shalu ma'am, what's your take on this?
So as very rightly said by Punam ma'am, while she was speaking, I was recollecting my school days when I used to go as a child to school. Our teachers were never talking about these kind of skills that we are harping on today, but they made us what we are today. And I think our education system was very, very strong, and they made us good human beings. We learned everything from collaboration to critical thinking right in the school premises. And at that time, we never had the digital modes or the laptops or even tablets, leave aside mobile phones. We would do a lot of research work with our own determination and guidance of the teachers. We would do a lot of extra work because we wanted to learn something new. I see that spark missing in today's generation. I feel that for them, if they want to find something, they can just sit and open their laptop and all the answers are very readily available to them. So the hard work is missing out. Secondly, what ma'am said, resilience, I think that's the most important element that we have to look at, because in one of my schools in Maharashtra, we worked on this aspect a couple of years back, and we collaborated with a group called Resilient India. And they were working with children on areas which are not covered in textbooks or school curriculum, something like as small as civic sense. Nowadays, if you see children are riding two-wheelers, no helmets, no license, they are on the road and creating a havoc. Where is the civic sense? Where is the sense of responsibility, because you can harm some other human being? Where is the sense of any kind of, ownership that I'm responsible for myself? Emotionally, they are very, very weak. A small setback can disturb their whole life. They will go into depression. I had a class 2 child facing depression because there were certain issues at home. So, these things, we have to work on these elements with our children before we talk about the bigger terms. And of course, 21st century skills are important. They are the skills that are going to help children fare well once they are out of the school life. They are the skills that are going to help them collaborate, communicate, do a lot of problem solving. Yes, of course. But all that will come after we make a child strong within. He should be responsible for his own self, for not only his own self, for people around him, because he is not living in isolation. He's affecting everybody and anybody around. So in my school, we work extensively on these aspects. In fact, life skills, a topic which is just, a grade in the report card, but it is one topic, if you look at it in depth, there is abundance that we can share with children. We can talk to them, train them, orient them, just make them aware of what's beyond the textbook. I read somewhere very nice, quotation which said that you only grow when you are out of your comfort zone. So how uncomfortable are we making our children in the classroom so that they start, thinking about growth? So we have to work on these smaller aspects and then look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely agreed. I totally agree. And I think what we call 21st century skills are the skills which have always been relevant. It's not as if these skills suddenly came out of hidden
they were
box.
always there, but
they were always
perhaps
there.
different names.
Perhaps a different name, right? And but they've always been important, right? Like you said, collaboration and communication. I mean, these skills have always been important, and they will always be important. And the other point that you touched upon is something that's very, very close to me and to everybody who works with us in our organization, Skill IV, which is emotions or emotional intelligence or emotional quotient of children. I was actually reading a report some time back, which said 1 out of every 4 teenager in our country is currently dealing with stress, anxiety, and depression, yes, which is an incredibly high number. I mean, India is the #1 country for teenage depression, right? So why do you think has that happened? What is causing this great level of stress and anxiety in our children right now?
You want me to answer?
Yeah, please, yes, ma'am.
I think the stress comes from unnecessary competition. I think, and unnecessary, well, I won't say unnecessary, but high expectations from parents. When parents expect beyond what the children are capable of doing, and when the competition becomes very, very severe, our children are suffering, if I may say so, from their own self-esteem. Am I capable, to be able to recognize your own strengths, to be able to recognize what am I capable of doing, to be able to recognize, to be self-directed, that this is what I can do and this is what I can't do. And to be able to be candid enough to talk to the parent and say, look, this is it. I think those are the causes for causing a lot of depression and children going into a state. I feel today's youths, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of our youths today is rudderless. They really don't know which paths to take. Again, because of societal pressure, because of peer pressure, because of parental pressure, they actually don't know where they're going, who they are, and there is no self-direction. That I think is one of the main causes causing depression, causing them to seek other paths and finding quick solutions, quick fix solutions. And then, going into stuff which is, very highly glamorized, like drugs, that's an easy way of getting out of it. All this is causing a havoc to them, to the society, and to people at large. So I think these are the things that need to be addressed, and it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. If we talk about mental illness or mental health,
Yeah.
a large number of our children are suffering from that, and access to gadgets, it's become easy, it's become very easy for them. So,
Yeah.
so I think if the school, the parent, the children work together and understand that there is a lot more, and it is not only academics, there is a whole plethora of things that can take them forward in terms of being successful in life. As I said, success is one term which is very, very individual. What could be success for me,
Yeah,
not be for you. For somebody, earning money could be success. For somebody else, doing charity could be success. It's a very individual thing. So helping the children to understand that, what is the path that they need to take and move forward in life. And life is going to be complex. It's not going to be easy. If we see the world today, it's the 21st century is going to be a world of challenges, and many challenges. With Shalu and me, I know Shalu must be much younger, but we came from a time when life was not that tough. Competitions were not that tough, and that is why I insist that the resilience. Like I keep emphasizing on this fact that unless you are able to take things in your stride, that it's okay, I need to be sure of myself and I need to move on, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And recently I was talking to somebody about this exact topic around mental health and emotional well-being of our children, and we were talking about parents, and my question was, do the parents know? And this gentleman said that yes, they know, but they're scared of accepting it. Would you agree with that, Shalu ma'am? Do you think the parents are scared of accepting that there is a mental health issue that we have to deal with?
See, normally what happens is whenever we, come face to face with a situation, a human tendency is that the first stage is denial. Immediately people go in denial. So if you try and tell a parent that there is some emotional disturbance that we have observed, the first is they will go in a denial mode and not accept. So normally how we do it is that whenever we speak to the parent, we have to refer the incidents and not come to a conclusion. Let the parent conclude that this incident happened because of something which perhaps back at home maybe affected. So our job is not to pass a judgment about the child's emotional health, but our job is to keep a close watch, be very keen observer, and teachers and the team, they watch children on day-to-day basis. So for them it's very easy to notice a change, and all that we have to communicate is the change that we are looking at. Of course, some parents take it very sportingly. Like ma'am said, digital, mode and media. So yes, parents are hearing news and they are also reading reports. They are aware, but some are not. So it becomes the school's duty to bridge that gap. But see, what are emotions? Basically, it's an outcome of something that you are feeling. Unless and until we help the child identify that if he's feeling sad, he has to go back and find the root of that feeling and emotion. So if we are able to help the child do that, they turn the emotion into a better state quite readily. But something like depression, it can be genetic as well. It may be genetic. It may happen because of certain disturbances at home. But if we go back and look at the time when we were children, we used to have joint families, lots and lots of members and children and elders at home. They would all support each other. And if there is a problem, the family used to sit like a team and work out on a probable solution. Children, that is if very big element, talk or discuss or share any issue, they find very few people from today's ready to give a helping hand or sit and listen to their problems. But I think school plays a very important role there, because we do have trained people to handle such situations. And I think they're doing a great job by giving children that space where they are feeling very comfortable. They open up, they share. And if there's something alarming, then we bring the parent in and collaborate with the parent and help the child overcome that problem.
Right. No, that's fantastic. And you touched upon bridging the gap, and between the parents and the child and the school. So Poonam ma'am, tell us a little bit about some of the best practice, some of the things that you believe really worked when it came to bridging the gap and making the parents more aware, and helping the children become more expressive and more emotionally confident. Because in my mind, there is no life skill which is more important than your self-awareness, your ability to manage your own emotions, because that's where everything begins. You can learn how to speak, you can learn how to solve problems, you can learn how to build your own influence or all of that, but at the end of the day, it's all about emotions. If I can't manage my own self, if I don't know, like you very rightly mentioned, Poonam ma'am, a while back, there is this almost a sense of lack of direction, which emerges from no self-awareness. I don't know what I want to do. And I noticed that very extensively in my corporate career, which was more than 20 years long, where I used to recruit these young people straight out of universities, and they would come and do the job, but there was no sense of enthusiasm or energy, and it was very clear that this is not what they really wanted to do, but they're doing it. So tell us a little bit about some of the best practice, some of the things that really worked for you in your past experience. Maybe it'll benefit some of the people who watch and listen to this.
I think Shalu very, very well said that the parent has to be a partner in the journey of the child's learning. And I think this regular meeting with the parent, although there's a flip side to it. When you meet parents too often, it could create its own problems. But inviting parents into the school, asking them to observe what the children are learning, when they see a group of children, displaying what they are learning, or I personally believe that these annual functions are one of the things that happen where the whole school comes together, which is completely different. But when you have these little kind of plays or stage setups for a particular class, where parents of that particular class are called in, and they observe what their children are doing, or spend half a day with what the children are doing on a regular basis. When I'm saying regular, I mean like maybe they can come in once in a term, or maybe once in a quarter, however it fits into the timetable, and see what the children are doing at large. They also realize that it's not only my child, there are other children who are going through their own journey and through their own phase of learning. So, it's not very alarming for them. Sometimes they feel, "Arey, mera bachcha aisa kyun nahi kar raha hai?" They realize कि दूसरे के बच्चा भी नहीं कर रहा है. And so that feeling of empathy, or that feeling of that it's okay and let go, that children at the end of the year will all come to a certain stage where they would have all learned. So I think that's one of the things that we did in our school, and it worked. It helped because it made us connect with the parent. It made us understand what is going on at home and what needs to be done. So the parent also knows that how can they enhance the children's learning, etc. Having these little workshops for the parents, all these things really worked, So I think, having a connection with the parent and the parent body does seem to have a good effect on the children's learning. So this was one of the practices which we followed, and I think this is a very IB programmed setup. It happens regularly in the IB program, but we adopted that in our CBSE schools, and we found that it worked. So I think that's one. There are lots of best practices that you can pick up from various other curriculums that others are doing to be able to take this forward.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things, because our children are global citizens. They are not going to be confined to just one country or one state. They need to be able to, adjust and appreciate what the world is at large. In our times, if somebody was coming, we would show off a bag coming from Canada or from America, saying, "Oh, my uncle got this." Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is traveling. So, and the world is shrinking. And with the internet, I think we've just come, the whole world is a village. It's come together. So I think we need to, kind of help children understand that there is something beyond just their own periphery or their own little cocoon that they are living in.
Sure. No, very valuable and very useful. And Shalu ma'am, a while back you'd mentioned that life skills needs to be more than just a grade in the report card, right? Some schools are talking about life skills as a curriculum, almost like a separate, thing that's there besides, your history and geography and maths and physics and all of that. And some schools have started taking steps towards kind of amalgamating life skills into the way they are, in the pedagogy and the way the classes are run. What is it that you are doing and doing well at GD Goenka, right?
So life skills for us is not something which becomes something out of the textbook. We wanted to blend a lot of real life experiences and help a child learn from people who've been in situations themselves. So one thing which we very readily do here is we invite a lot of people from different fields, and they come and share their experiences with children, and then children kind of have a rendezvous with them and ask questions. Survival skill. This is one of the skills which is on my topmost list, because the minute they are out of the school life, how do they survive outside? Self-defense, another very, very important skill for not only for girls, but for boys as well, because that is something which comes with awareness, which comes with a lot of discipline, which comes with techniques. So we do invite people who come and talk about the importance of self-defense, the importance of survival skills, the importance of being resilient. And one thing which you mentioned about, identification of our own strengths and weaknesses. Of course, it is important to know who I am, what I'm made up of, what are my strengths and weaknesses, but we take it to one step further. We try and help children convert their strengths into opportunities. That how can I, if I'm good at something, then that means this is the base, and on this basis, I can avail certain opportunities and I can make good use of it and do well in life. But at the same time, since we are human beings, we all have weaknesses, we all have flaws, and they may sometimes become threat if I don't control it or contain it or do something about it. But there are certain weaknesses which can be converted into better skills by doing some practice, and some mediations and some interventions are designed for children. So how can they, bring out these weaknesses and do something about it? We help them with those weaknesses and convert them into strengths, so that they also become part of their opportunity journey. So we do these kind of small things with children. And all these things, normally schools have open house or PTM, but in high school, we do have a little chit chat with the parents over a phone call. So sometimes you see parents are not very comfortable talking about their child when there are 10 other people standing. So over a phone call and at ease of their home, they do come up and share a lot of insights about the child's development, his behavior. The teacher also gives her input, not in terms of any negative feedback, but what she's noticing is good and what she's noticing can be improved. So, we develop this trust building with the parent. And once the trust is set, it becomes easier to collaborate and work with the parent. So these are small things that we are doing here. And I hope it helps each student in high school, and they do well wherever they go.
Yeah.
I think just to add to what Shalu just said, somehow this COVID at the time, was a blessing in disguise. In the sense, that on the Zoom platform, like she said, it became, our PTMs, we started having our PTMs on Zoom, where we were interacting with parents one-on-one, and like she said, so, I always said that this is a reversal. Earlier, you would come to school and ask how the children are doing. I think now we're coming to you, asking you how are the children doing because they are at home. And that helped in building a certain kind of a relationship, which helped in enhancing the growth of the children.
Right, right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I, as a father, felt much more engaged in my daughter's academic progress and her overall personality development, her interactions with other students during COVID, because I could constantly observe her, and the interactions with the teachers was much greater at that point in time. And Shalu ma'am, you brought up a great point. I totally loved it, and I'll make a note of it around helping children do their SWOT, their strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat analysis. I think every individual needs to do that.
Yeah.
It's
Yes, it works well with even adults. At our stage also, we keep on developing new strengths, and while we are working with different set of people, we find out that, oh, this I didn't know, but this is my weakness and I need to work on my weak spot. I think the beauty of life is that as you grow, you keep on learning new things, and there's no end to learning. And as we learn, we have to sometimes unlearn what we had learned previously. So it's like a beautiful cycle which just moves on and makes our life more rich and experiencing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And now I quickly wanted to talk about NEP, NIEPP, this new policy draft, which talks about the innovation, ideation, and entrepreneurship at schools. And it's fantastic, helping children learn about entrepreneurship, helping children ideate, helping children innovate. That's fantastic. And these are skills which are everlasting. And if children can start doing that from a young age, in fact, what we've noticed in our experience in our work with children is that their ability to innovate and ideate is much greater when they are in their preteens, pre-adolescence. It starts to, it kind of falls off the cliff in most cases as they, get into the more senior classes, and the academic stress starts to hit them, and the competition and comparisons and all of those things. So if the policy or, whatever interventions we do can help reignite the spark towards ideation and innovation, that's fantastic. But it also puts on this a lot of onus on the schools. For example, I was going through the policy draft, and there are things like setting up the school innovation council, creating 2 hours of innovation time for every student in the school every week, and stuff like that. So what's your take on it as people who've been in this space, and you're closer to it than anybody else? What is your take on making this more tangible and real, innovation, ideation, and entrepreneurship at schools?
I think I will ask Shalu to first speak about it, because she's
Sure,
in the helm of affairs right now.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, ma'am. A very valid question. But somehow perhaps the way I look at things or I see things is a little different. Rather than taking the child to a pasture and saying that, okay, this is the field and now you've got to innovate, I think it's a mindset. And when we call it a mindset, it is something which we have to develop from a very tender age. So if we are talking of problem solving, if we are talking of higher order thinking skills, if we are talking of collaboration, anything, any of these beautiful words, we have to start creating a mindset right from the time the child is with us. And gradually, when they grow up, we need to open a lot of opportunities for them. Like the campus where I am, we have the university, GD Goenka University also very much here. And there are 12 colleges inside. So what we are doing here is we are making children collaborate with the university people to understand what happens after school, and if there is certain profession that they are interested to take up, what it takes to reach there. And probably they are looking at innovative ideas right at the time while they are in school. But I don't want to really hurry it up and make them entrepreneurs while they are still enjoying their school days. Of course, they have to have that kind of outlook and approach that is important. But at the same time, like I said, it's a mindset, and we have to gradually take it up further once they are in higher classes. So one is the collaboration with the university. The second aspect is that since GD Goenka has numerous, like children are exchanging.
I think your connection's holding up.
Yeah, yeah, I think.
Maybe Punam ma'am, you want to speak?
I think I'll pitch in till the time she comes back. I think what she said is starting very young. And for me, when we are saying start very young, I think inquiry-based learning is something which should become a part and parcel of the children's grow as they grow. What I mean by inquiry is that not accepting whatever is written as the truth. Research on it, find out more on it, scaffold it, add to it, and find out whether what. I'll give you a very, very mundane, stupid example. Sorry. I mean, since I'm a geography person, that's the first thing that's coming to my mind. Now, while you're explaining that to them, the children need to understand why. That is, that, I mean, why is it that the leaves are broad? Why is it regions, that the tip of the leaves are very broad shaped, and they have to be able, that's when it's opening up their own mind. It's opening up their own thought process to accept that if there is something that is written, there has to be a reason to it. There has to be a logic behind what is mentioned in the text. So if we start helping children to ask questions, or the art of, why is it like that? Why is it not like that? Why are we doing this? Why are we not doing this? Once that, that pattern sets in, I think we will have more innovators. We will have people who will be collaborators. We will have people who will start thinking out of the box. Just accepting whatever material you're getting as the whole truth. That's not enough. I used to tell my students too that what you get is a forward on a WhatsApp, right? Whatever you get on a WhatsApp, it's a forward. Who's created it? How many of you have created some message on a WhatsApp, found some meaning to it, and then forwarded? You're blindly forwarding whatever you are getting. Is there any logic behind doing that? Why do you want to share it? So if we start helping our children to understand right from the time they are toddlers, that children are inquirers. Basically, they are curious, they are inquisitive. As they grow, we try to shut that spirit of curiosity down, because we are in speed of finishing the curriculum. There is so much that needs to be done, etc., etc. But if we start helping our children to understand it from that perspective, I'm sure we'll be able to add to a lot of these 21st century skills and to a lot of what the government is aspiring from our young ones.
That's right. Absolutely. And Shalu ma'am, do you think, there are obviously schools which are more progressive, but on a larger scale, when we talk about thousands and thousands of schools in our country, like Punam mentioned, there is this rush to complete the curriculum, almost this overarching desire to make sure, students are prepared for the examination, and that's where most of the focus is. How do we bring about this shift, this curiosity, this critical questioning, this reasoning, etc. And how do we get our schools, our teachers, our children, our parents to really buy into something like this? The government obviously wants it, but do the schools have the capacity right now, given all the other things that are happening, to do this successfully?
I think she has an connectivity problem. Yeah, there's a problem with the connection.
Yeah,
big challenge. It's a
Yeah.
big challenge.
Yes.
There's always um, the focus from academics to critical thinking to collaboration. Even while I was heading the school, we would say, okay, up to grade 8, it's fine. Let's do all of this. But the minute the children come into grade 9, it's back into the rigor of academics. That, complete the syllabus, complete this. You've got to sit for a board exam at the end of the day. Unless the entire system changes, unless, NEP is trying to do that. We are trying to do that. We bought in a beautiful pattern called CCE some time back, which was fantastic, which was really, really good. But was it being used in the right sense across schools? No, it wasn't. Again, because of lack of teacher training. Our teachers are not trained how to think. They come from a typical mindset. बच्चों को पढ़ाओ, रट्टा लगवाओ, exam दिलाओ, marks दिलाओ, let them get out of the school and do what they wish to do. So, the problem starts from the bottom. The problem you have to deal with it right there. And unless we catch the bull by the horns and say, look, this is what we need to do. So it's a big challenge, As much as we would want to implement whatever is expected, however, it's going to take time. It is not something that will happen overnight. The government is doing by bringing the term exams, splitting it. And we've seen that, these multiple choice questions, which are more based on logical reasoning, etc., have taken a big hit. Children have found it very difficult to, write their paper with the multiple choice. They found subjective writing much easier. And, the government is moving towards making, online exams and all of that, like they have it in the West. But to bring the entire country onto one page, where we are not talking about schools in cities like Gurgaon or Noida or Delhi, etc. We're talking of remote corners of the country where they have their own challenges, where the needs and aspirations are very different of the parents there. So we have to understand all of that before we bring education on one platform.
Right. And Shalu ma'am, do you think a school like GD Goenka High School could be a trendsetter here? I mean, it's a difficult task. I've been in this space for a while now. One, there is a sense of denial and lack of acknowledgement that this is a very important thing, even in the urban centers that we work in. And then, of course, there is a capacity issue. While it's easy for everybody to blame the teachers, so the fact is teachers are overburdened right now. There's so much happening, and besides just taking their classes, I know teachers have to do so much more as well. So it's easy to blame them, but hard to understand what they're going through. And then, of course, there are issues like, you can't increase the fees. So how do you bring in more new things and stuff like that? So, I wanted to hear your take on how difficult this challenge is, and, how can the schools try to overcome this?
It is definitely a very big challenge. But before I answer your question, I'll give you a short, example of entrepreneur in a very, very remote village in a place called Sankri, which is in Uttarakhand. I met this girl, and she happened to be in class 12 when the COVID was at its peak. And there were no teachers, no books that were issued to them, and they were in class 12. How this girl utilized her time and talent and whatever knowledge she had, she started with apple orchid business, and she started with the plantation and selling of apples. And now she's a very fine businesswoman, sending apples online to places like Bangalore, Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai. So I think if one individual decides to do something, sometimes, yes, there is a passion which pushes you to do something, but sometimes situations are built in such a way that they motivate you to not just sit and brood, but get up and do something about it. So why I gave that example is because our city children must understand that they are very, very blessed. They're very fortunate that they have every facility that they can think of within the vicinity, within their reach, and yet they are not making most of it. So of course, that was one part of me as an educationist who thinks like that. But if I look at a school and where I have to initiate such programs, of course, they come with the price. If I call a team to establish a lab here, which helps children innovate products and ideas, and then, if something works out, we have to package and sell and earn a profit. It requires a lot of planning and a lot of investment. But at the same time, we have been talking about it right from beginning, that if parents are a party to it and they are collaborating with it, they are seeing benefit that the child is going to derive out of it. No project is difficult for a school to invest in and for a school to start at. But it must be very, very well communicated to the parent body, what we are doing, why we are doing, and what is the outcome that we are going to expect with it. How is the child and the other student community going to benefit out of it? So there are a lot of these small nitty-gritties which one has to think on, work on, and then no project is difficult. Like if I have to set up a robotic or a STEAM lab, I need to first understand what is the child going to derive out of it, what is the benefit that each child is going to draw out of it. It should not be that just because I want to put it on social media or on my brochure that I have this facility and I do it. A lot of schools do it well. That's one way of looking at. But for me, an objective and an outcome is very important. With what objective I've set up something and what is the outcome that I'm going to achieve out of it. And if I can justify that to the parent, then I think no project or no investment goes waste. It is a long-term investment. And if we are able to produce children who are entrepreneurs at a young, tender age, who are looking at making India more self-sustained. Our Prime Minister has been harping on Make in India. If we can do that, and we can do that right from the school stage. So as an individual, my service to the nation is quite well achieved.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think very soon, hopefully, we will get to a point where we will start celebrating startup stories out of the schools.
Yes.
And I think that's when, it'll all catch up. It'll catch up like wildfire, because people need to, understand that children have this latent capacity, which is going waste right now at a majority of our across the majority of our country, because the way the whole system and structure is built. So hopefully that will change, and the change will start happening now.
And one can always do small things. I mean, you don't have to really look at doing something really big, but even a small step. Like one of my schools, my previous schools, children were very good with handicraft items, because there was a team of teachers who were training them for painting and craft items and pottery and origami. So these students would put up an annual exhibition every year, where whatever products they've made throughout the year, they would put it up in the exhibition to sell. After selling, we would share a part of the resource as their profit, and a part of it we would ask the children to donate collectively in an NGO. So even a class 5 child started earning something out of the handicraft items that they were preparing. And not only, they did not stop at that, they requested me to open up the online portal where they can sell these craft items online as well. So we opened up a little shop in the school campus where visitors can come and buy, children can sell online. So it's a small step, but it sets a series of sparks, and children can do something bigger.
Absolutely. I mean, that's celebration. That's celebration of something real happening, and that motivates other children too.
I think another aspect where schools, all of us should feel responsible is on the 17 goals that have been given by the UN, the SDG.
Yeah.
We are facing climatic change. We are facing water shortage. We are facing so many things. And while we are talking about life skills, we also need to make children understand that this world belongs to them, and what Mahatma Gandhi had said, that we have enough resources for everybody's need, but not for everyone's greed.
Greed.
And and help children understand what are the baby steps or what are the small steps that they would take to help making the world more sustainable, to be able to, understand that whatever they have within themselves or within the, not increase their wants, not increase, not have too many demands on the resources that are already so short for. And celebrate, like Shalu just said, celebrate small things, like celebrate a kabaddi wala. Celebrate people who are, working to help making the environment a better place, fine, we are doing one Mahotsav, we are doing a lot of things, but are we also talking about the rag picker? Are we also talking about the guy who cleans the sewers? All of this is something that we need to celebrate and sensitize our children, that there is more than just what you see in the air-conditioned classrooms that you are sitting in.
Very true. Very true.
Absolutely. Very true. Very, very well said, ma'am. Very well said. I think this has been a deeply enriching conversation, and hopefully, for you as well. We thought we'd talk for 30 minutes. We ended up talking for 50. So
almost an hour, yeah,
almost an hour. So I'm hoping and assuming that it's been interesting conversation for both of you as well, but some really good insights. We've spoken about 21st century skills and how these skills have always been relevant, but they are becoming more and more relevant now because of the rapid changes which we are seeing in technology, in the way the careers are being built, and what is going to be required in the future. So and the bridges that we need to build across the community, and we talk about the community, we talk about children, parents, teachers, all of us together. How do we start communicating more, and how do we start making sure that the spark doesn't go as children grow up, because of this competition and comparisons and all of those things. We've also spoken about the importance for emotional awareness and well-being, self-awareness, being more purpose-driven for children. And then finally, entrepreneurship and how we can start celebrating small wins, or start implementing programs in the schools that will actually build the next generation of creators for our country, like our Prime Minister has been talking about. So I really wanted to thank both of you, Punam ma'am and Shalu ma'am, for taking the time out. I know this was a Saturday, and I'm sure you have many other things to do, but thank you for taking the time out. Hopefully I'll get to meet you in person sometime in the future.
Definitely. And thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to have met Punam ma'am and hear her views. And I'm looking forward to meeting both of you in person. Thank you so much.
Definitely. On a lighter note, off record.
Yeah, I'll just stop the recording anyway.